we're saying happy birthday to a woman who has embraced the power of science fiction. Margaret Atwood was born on this day in 1939. She grew up in Canada, much of her youth spent in the backwoods of Quebec province, where her father studied insects.
In 2010, Atwood went on tour for her book, The Year of the Flood, about disease and technology and survival. But our Kathleen Shannon also wanted to know more about the author's upbringing.
And so you were homeschooled basically until you were in sixth grade, right?
That.
No.
We called it getting the books from the school. But we never did this in the winter, because in the winter the insects are dormant. They're not doing anything. So in the winter we would go to a city, one of 3 cities, and my dad would write up his results, and then in the spring we'd go off to the woods again.
I see.
So I always had little pockets of school, but of course I associated school with winter.
Being stuck inside.
It's cold, you were inside. You had to wear snow pants and stuff your itchy woolly skirt down into them.
And you read a lot, and I just wondered that at-home education, as opposed to, you know, the more rigid in school, and the fact that you read so much, I wondered how that affected your writing.
Oh, I think a lot, because remember, it really was the woods. This was not a village in the woods. It was none of those things. It was out in the woods, and there was no TV. Of course, nobody had TV yet then anyway, but even the radio, we did have a radio, but mostly you got shortwave from Russia. You know, you couldn't.
From Russia? Did you speak Russian?
No.
So you really didn't have much radio either?
No, we didn't have much radio. It's gotten much better now. When we go there now, we have a wind-up radio, and it's pretty good. Picks up a lot of things.
So you lived a lot in your mind and through the books that you read.
I had an older brother, so he taught me a lot of stuff. And the thing about school work was that you could do it, and then you could go out and do whatever you wanted.
So did you always want to be a writer?
There's family mythology circling around that. I did write quite early, and I wrote a book of poems, and I wrote a novel. It was about an ant. Learned about a lot about narrative structure from that. This
dystopian, in other words, the opposite of utopia, the perfect world, is a tool that you've used in many of your books.
Couple of them. Ren is locked up in the quarantine zone of the upscale sex club where she's been working as a trapeze performer. And she's in there because in the immediate future we're going to be very worried about germs.
Is this book a cry out for people to pay attention and save the world, for lack of a better term? Or the environment?
There's always a debate that goes on, and the debate is like this, and it's been going on ever since there have been stories and books. And it is, should a story entertain? Should it educate? If it only educates, nobody's going to read it because it's not entertaining. If it's only entertaining, you're going to read it once.
So I always get the sense you're not trying to save the world, but you are trying to make us think.
Well, you cannot save the world by writing a book. Let's be realistic here. I mean, they can think if they want to. I can't make them think. You don't want to think, be my guest, join the multitudes. I cannot make you think. I'm looking at a what-if scenario, every element of which is with us today.
Which is? What are the elements that you see?
Okay, genetic modification. You think that that applies only to big fat salmon and plants, don't you?
I don't, only because I had to read a news story last night about larger animals and
yes.
cows. And
well, don't even think about them. Think about microbes. Okay, those are actually pretty easy to modify now that we've got the tools to do it. Not that I want to depress you. Global warming, the kinds of social problems that will bring, the convergence of government and business. You actually wish to avoid that.
Because in your book, they're one and the same.
They're one and the same, yeah, and I must say it gave me chills when I saw that money going into the automobile industry. Don't go there.
That was Kathleen Shannon in 2010. By the way, we'll continue that conversation with Margaret Atwood in our next half hour right here, talking about The Handmaid's Tale and the ways she believes it has been misunderstood. That's still to come.